The Vexery Empire had conquered 17 star systems without ever losing a single battle. Their warships moved through the galaxy like wolves hunting sheep. No species had ever put up a real fight. The Vexery believed they were the strongest force in the known universe. They had never encountered humans before. Admiral Dex Voren stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Divine Claw. He watched as his fleet of 40 warships approached a small human colony on the edge of explored space. The colony was called New Providence. It had only 50,000 inhabitants. The Vexery had expected to conquer it within the hour. "Admiral, we are detecting a single vessel approaching from the planet," reported his sensor officer. Dex Voren let out a sound that was similar to laughter among his kind. "One ship? They send one ship against 40 of our finest warships?" The bridge crew shared in the amusement. This was going to be easier than they had expected. The Vexery had studied human technology from a distance. They knew humans had only recently discovered faster than light travel. They were considered a primitive species by galactic standards. The human vessel came into visual range. It was not beautiful like Vexery ships. It was not graceful or elegant. It was a brutal-looking thing made of dark metal and sharp angles. The hull was covered in weapons. There were so many weapons that the ship looked more like a floating arsenal than a proper spacecraft. "What kind of vessel is that?" asked Dex Voren. He felt the first small seed of uncertainty grow in his chest. "Unknown design, Admiral. Our records have no matching profile. It appears to be some kind of attack craft." The human ship was small compared to the Vexery warships. The Divine Claw alone was 5 times its size. But something about the way it moved made Dex Voren uncomfortable. It did not approach with caution. It came directly at the fleet at full speed. That was either bravery or madness. "Hail them," ordered the Admiral. Perhaps they wished to surrender with honor. The communication channel opened. A human female appeared on the screen. She wore a dark uniform, and her face showed no fear. Behind her, Dex Voren could see other humans moving with calm efficiency. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the UEN Retribution. You are approaching a protected human colony. Turn your fleet around and leave this system immediately." Dex Voren was so surprised that he could not speak for a moment. This tiny ship was ordering his entire fleet to retreat? "Human, I am Admiral Dex Voren of the Vexery Empire. You are outnumbered 40 to 1. Your colony will be absorbed into our empire. Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly as servants." Captain Vasquez did not react with fear or anger. She simply smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile a predator might give to prey that had wandered too close. "Admiral, I want to give you one more chance. I am telling you to leave. Not asking, telling. Because if you do not leave in the next 60 seconds, I am going to show you what a human gunship can do. And you will not enjoy the lesson." The communication ended before Dex Voren could respond. The bridge fell silent. No one had ever spoken to a Vexery admiral that way. It was unthinkable. "Destroy that ship," Dex Voren commanded. His voice was cold with fury. All ships opened fire on the human vessel. 40 warships turned their weapons toward the Retribution. Thousands of energy beams lanced through space. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The attack should have vaporized the human gunship instantly. The Retribution was not there anymore. The small ship had moved faster than any vessel Dex Voren had ever seen. It twisted and spun through the barrage of energy weapons like a dancer avoiding raindrops. Not a single beam touched its hull. "How is that possible?" whispered the sensor officer. "No ship can move like that." The Retribution stopped its evasive dance. For a brief moment, it hung motionless in space. Then it began its attack. Dex Voren had seen weapons fire before. He had watched his own ships bombard planets and destroy enemy fleets. But he had never seen anything like what the human gunship did next. Every weapon on the Retribution fired at once. Missiles launched from hidden tubes along its hull. Energy beams burst from dozens of emitters. Kinetic rounds shot from railguns mounted on every surface of the ship. The amount of firepower coming from that single vessel was unbelievable. The first 3 Vexury warships exploded before they could raise their shields. Their reactors detonated, and the ships became nothing but scattered metal and flame. The Retribution did not slow down. It flew directly into the center of the Vexury formation, weapons firing in all directions. "Return fire! All ships return fire!" screamed Dex Vorn. But hitting the Retribution was like trying to catch lightning with bare hands. It moved with impossible speed and precision. Every time a Vexury ship targeted it, the gunship was already somewhere else. And all the while, its weapons never stopped firing. The human ship tore through the Vexury fleet like a blade through paper. Warships that had conquered entire civilizations were reduced to burning wreckage in seconds. The Retribution showed no mercy and gave no warning. It simply killed. Captain Vasquez watched her tactical display with calm focus. Her crew worked their stations with practiced skill. The Retribution had been built for exactly this kind of fight. It was designed to engage multiple enemies at once. Every system on the ship was dedicated to one purpose: destruction. 17 targets eliminated, reported her weapons officer. 23 remaining. Ammunition at 70%. Continue attack pattern Delta, ordered Vasquez. Focus on their command ship. I want the Admiral to see his fleet die before we take him out. The Retribution changed its approach. Instead of attacking randomly, it began systematically destroying ships in a ring around the Divine Claw. Dex Vorn watched in horror as his fleet was taken apart piece by piece. The human gunship was not just defeating them. It was humiliating them. "Admiral, we must retreat," shouted his second-in-command. "We cannot win this fight." Dex Vorn wanted to argue. The Vexury had never retreated from battle. It was against everything they believed. But as he watched another 3 ships explode under the human assault, he knew there was no choice. All ships jumped to hyperspace. Emergency retreat. The surviving Vexury ships tried to flee, but the Retribution was faster. It intercepted vessels that were charging their hyperspace drives and destroyed them before they could escape. Only 12 ships managed to jump away. The rest were turned into debris fields floating in the void. The Divine Claw's hyperspace drive activated just as a missile from the Retribution struck its rear section. The explosion damaged the ship badly but did not destroy it. Dex Vorn and what remained of his crew limped away from the battle. When the Divine Claw arrived at the nearest Vexury military base, the Admiral was immediately summoned before the High Council. He had to explain how 40 warships had been destroyed by a single human vessel. The council members listened to his report with growing disbelief. "You are telling us that one small ship did this?" demanded the High Counselor. "One ship killed 28 of our warships?" "Yes, High Counselor. The humans, they build their ships differently than anyone else. Every surface is a weapon. They do not believe in defensive ships. Their gunship was pure offense. Nothing but weapons and engines. But why? Why would they build such a thing?" Dex Vorn thought about the human captain. He thought about her smile. He thought about how she had not been afraid even when facing 40 enemy ships. Because they wanted to, High Counselor. The humans did not build that ship out of necessity. They built it because they could. They wanted to create the most dangerous single vessel possible. And they succeeded. The council spent many hours discussing what to do about the humans. Some wanted to send a larger fleet. Others argued that the humans should be destroyed with planet-killing weapons before they could build more such ships. But the wisest council member, an ancient Vexury named Orvax, had a different suggestion. "We should leave them alone," said Orvax. "A species that builds weapons like that does not do so because they are afraid. They do it because violence is part of who they are. If one gunship can destroy our fleet, what will happen when they build 100? 1,000? We cannot win a war against a species that treats destruction as an art form. The Council voted to establish a treaty with humanity. They would recognize human territory and agree to never enter it again. In exchange, the humans would not seek revenge for the attempted invasion. Captain Vasquez received word of the treaty while the Retribution was being repaired and rearmed at New Providence. She read the message and smiled. It was the same smile she had given Admiral Lex Voren. "Ma'am, do you think the Vexery really learned their lesson?" asked her first officer. "I think they learned something more important than a lesson," replied Vasquez. "They learned that humans do not build weapons to match our enemies. We build weapons to completely overwhelm them. We do not believe in fair fights. We believe in winning." She looked out at the stars beyond the viewport. Somewhere out there, other empires were hearing about what the Retribution had done. They were learning about a species from a small blue planet that built ships made of nothing but weapons and attitude. Other civilizations build their militaries around the concept of reasonable force, continued Vasquez. They calculate exactly how much firepower they need, and they use that amount. Humans do not think that way. We ask ourselves what is the maximum possible destruction we can create, and then we try to exceed it. The Vexery called it overkill. We call it being prepared. The Retribution's repairs were completed the next day. Captain Vasquez took her ship out on patrol, ready to teach the next empire the same lesson. The galaxy was a dangerous place. But humanity had decided long ago that they would be the most dangerous thing in it. Word of the battle spread across civilized space. Species that had never heard of Earth began researching the small blue world. They learned about human history. They learned about the endless wars humans had fought against each other. They learned that humans had perfected the art of killing over thousands of years. And they learned the most important lesson of all. When a single human gunship tells you to leave, you should listen. Because humans do not make threats. They make promises. And they always keep them.